Well, hi. So what we're making today is a siren stitch cowl. I only used the 36 peg because this one I wanted to have for me more as a neck warmer. And I guess it could be a really, really thick headband too in this size. And but you can use a much bigger one to get a cowl too, any size, and you can use any peg count too. Okay. And it is a very nice textured stitch. You can see the texture. Lots of texture on this stitch. Also a really easy stitch to do. Beginners can do this one easy enough. Anyone can. Oh yeah, lots of texture. The inside looks really nice too. We'll see if I can pick it up because I know there's a lot of colors in this yarn. But there you can see the stitches. It's flatter, not as much texture, but you can see that it has a nice design on the inside too. But the outside is the real textured side. And the yarn, because I'm going to get questions about this yarn, the yarn is Bergeret de France, and it's made in France, of course. Color is Tibet, and this is the color, and it just all kinds of beautiful reds and blue and white, and it has a shine to it. It is a roving type of yarn. Is it completely roving? It looks like it doesn't. It has a slight twist here and there. It goes a bit thicker and thinner, but not too bad, and it's quite a nice size of a bulky. I'd say it's almost as thick as Charisma. And oh, it's made out of, I think, 50% wool and 50% acrylic. So that's the yarn that we're using. I really like this yarn. So pretty. And it's really nice to work with too. If you have a lanolin allergy, of course, it won't be good for you, but okay. So what we'll do first is show you how to do the cast on and the few stitches to prepare for the stitch. So I already have a video of that, so I'm just going to take you there, and then we'll come back. I'll show you the stitch and you can catch up to me. So we'll see you in a few. So I'm going to show you how to start this piece, and I'm going to show you the cast on and the first few rows before we start into the pattern. The yarn I'm using for this is Atlantis, Estelle Atlantis, and the color is Gleam. And it's a combination of yellows and creams and light taupe and copper and bronze and lots of those colors in it. And it's a bulky. And it's, I guess it's pretty close to Charisma width to give you an idea of how big a bulky it is. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is a chain cast on. So what I do is I just make a slip knot. And any way you make a slip knot's fine. It just goes on the first peg like that. And we take the loom hook, put it inside the loop, and pick up a yarn. And so that we have a loop of yarn here. I'm just going to keep this tight over here. And then I'm going to come over behind the next peg, put the working yarn through, and snug it up. Behind, working yarn through, snug it up. Behind, whoop, behind, and we caught two pegs, snug it up. Behind, snug it up. And we just do that all the way around the loom. And that's a chain cast on. It's one of the crochet cast-ons. Works really good. You can use a crochet hook to do this if you want. I find it a lot easier just to do with my hands, but if you're in a very tiny gauge loom, you might really need a hook to get your fingers in between the pegs. This cast on can be used on any size of loom with the appropriate yarn for that gauge. I use this cast on with most of my pieces because I like the look of it. I do use other ones from time to time just because I think they go nicer with the work, but this one is nice. You don't have to worry about tightening any loops. It has a really nice appearance. And I just kind of do this weird thing when I do it because that helps me to get the right tension. But you can do it in one smooth motion too. Just the way I like to do the chain cast on. Get some more yarn out of here. Okay. Whoop, caught this in it. There we go. And then I just plop it on the last peg. And then you notice there's a space here. You could also pop it on there, but I find it makes this really thick here. So what I've started doing is just ending right here when I do this cast on, and then just knit it off. And then we're just going to come over here and knit this to secure it. And then what I do, because there's only one piece of yarn coming here and it's thicker in here, is I take this loop that I had left and put it over here, and then I just knit it over, and that makes it blend in better. At least that's what I think. And also this is partially secured already, so it will stay tighter and not loosen up on you now, which sometimes happens. Okay, so what we're going to do with this stitch, and I've already done one knit stitch here, is we're just going to do a row of U-knit. So a row of U-knit right after the cast on. This completes the cast on part of it. And a U-knit is just over the peg like that and knit it off. If you're doing this pattern, I'd be pretty sure you already know how to U-knit, but just in case. And it gives you one of the, well, the real knit stitches, really, since E-wrap is a twisted knit, and it's the same as knitting through the back loop and needle knitting. But these all give you the V stitch, which is the knit stitch. And this yarn has lots of nice color changes. I really like it. Oh, it's 50% wool and 50% acrylic. So really nice to work with, unless you're one of those people that's allergic to wool. But if you're not, it's beautiful to work with. It just glides on. And we must almost be back there. If it's not yet, we're almost back there. I was going to pause it if it was still a long ways, and I will do that on some of these rows just because it's going to really take up a lot of length in the video. Okay. Oop. This is loose because it's this one right here. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is a row of purl. So Just go down, pull a loop up and do that. I'll do it slower, but you should know how to purl. So we're just going to put this in just like the same way when we cast on. We came in through here. Now we're going to take this loop and pull it up just like we did with the cast on, except we're going to take everything off here and then just put the loop back on. You just put it right over like that. And that's all there is to a purl. So we're just going to purl all the way around. Just want to have a good, strong, non-curling base. And of course, when we cast off, we're going to do the same thing. Do the same rows we did here so it matches. Okay, I'm going to put it on pause while I go around and do the purl. Okay, so I completed my row of purl. Now I'm going to do another row of U-knit followed by another row of purl. So that's all we're going to do is another row of knit and then another row of purl. So what we did was we cast on, we did a row of U-knit, and then we did a row of purl, and then another row of U-knit, and another row of purl. So I'm just going to put you on pause, finish my row of knit, then I'm going to do my row of purl, and then we'll be all ready to start the stitch. So I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, so I did the second row of knit and the second row of purl, and this is what it looks like. It just gives you a beginning like that, so that that edge will never curl. Okay, so now that you've cast on and you're ready to begin the stitch, the first stitch we're going to do is twisty stitch. So it's a 2-stitch pattern. So on the first peg after the cast on and the knit and purls that you did, we're going to just knit over, and then we come back and knit over the other way, nice and loose, and knit it over, and that's twisty stitch. And then we come over and we don't pull it real tight. Okay, if we leave it loose, we get a way better texture, and I'm knitting it nice and loose, so I'm getting that texture. If you're a tight knitter, you're still going to get a texture. Your stitches will just be tighter. So there you go. And you might find if you're too tight, you're going to have trouble getting this one over this one, but if that should happen, just loosen the whole stitch up by pulling there and pulling there. Then you can knit it over easy enough. Okay, this one's always easy to get over, but if you get too tight, this one would be hard to get over. Okay, so you knit, and then you U-knit the opposite direction. That's twisty. You knit, knit the opposite direction. You knit, knit the opposite direction. Right? That's all there is to twisty. Very, very easy stitch. Gives you a ton of texture. So you just go all the way around the loom doing this stitch. Okay. And in case you're not quite picking it up, you go over in a U-wrap. So halfway around the peg, knit off. You come back in another U-wrap the opposite way, knit it off. Very, very easy stitch to get a lot of texture. And it adds texture to any stitch. When you add it to a stitch pattern, it will add texture to that stitch pattern. Okay. So I'm just going to put you on pause, finish this row, and then I'll show you the next stitch. Okay, I finished the twisty row. I just do the last stitch right here. And then we're going to do the second row, and it's a repeat of these 2 rows, just 2 stitch pattern, or 2 stitch row pattern. Can't seem to talk right now. Okay, so this peg here is going to get a double E-wrap on it, and a double E-wrap is like this and knit off, and then like this again, but because we'll get a gap, and as you see I don't have a gap, it's just the stitches going really nice, but you get a gap when you go from a stitch to a bigger stitch. You can get a hole there. So part of what the problem is when we wrap around like this is a long reach. So what I'm going to do is just come around and do U-wrap, and then come around to do the E-wrap on just this one peg, and then just double E-wrap. So an E-wrap and another E-wrap on the same peg. That's a double E-wrap, E-wrap, another E-wrap, and then another one on this peg. And we can look, and so this is a different stitch coming down here, but you can't really pick it up. It blends in. It blends in really nice. So here it is here where the double E-wrap is. There's one here, there's one here. You can't really see the difference. And there's no holes. Okay? So that's the way I decided to keep the jog from being too big. That's what you call it when you go from one stitch to the other and you have a difference. It's called a jog. Okay, so we do an E-wrap and then another E-wrap. Okay, so isn't this an easy stitch? And you get all that texture. Looking at it, you'd never think it was this easy. Just 2 easy stitches like that. And then you get this incredible textured piece. But that's what does it. Okay, so I'm just going to do the double E-wrap the rest of the way around this loom, and I'll meet you up and we'll see you in a bit. Okay, so I finished the row and now we go into twisty, and we don't have to worry about a jog between the double E-wrap and the twisty because our yarn ended up right here and we're going to go here. It's going to be nice and short. There will be no noticeable jog. So we just go into twisty. So the only place you have to worry about the jog is when we're going from twisty into double E-wrap. And I gave you a good solution for it. I don't see any noticeable difference. So now it's just a row of twisty. So I will meet you up at the end of the row. Okay, so now that you've done a row of twisty, you just keep alternating a row of double E-wrap, a row of twisty, till you get as long as you want to be. And then the next step is you're going to finish this the same way that you started it. So the combination of knits and purls. So I'm just going to do a row of purl next. There we go. So I'm going to do a row of purl, and then I'm going to come back and do a row of knit and then another row of purl, and then I'll be ready to cast off after I do the same sequence that I did here. So I'll meet you back here for the cast off. Just do your rows of knits and purls the same to match the bottom. We'll see you in a bit. Okay, so now that you've done that, so you've got this little garter stitch border, what you do is we're just going to wrap the yarn around the loom 3 times, at least 2.5. This bind off does use quite a bit of yarn up. So there's my 2, and then I'm going to go to 2.5 here, a little bit over 2.5, and just cut my yarn. And that should give you enough to do your bind off. And then you can use your loom hook. Some people do, but I find it much easier to use a yarn needle. So I just take my yarn needle, and it's a very long one, longer than I need, but I got them on Amazon and got a lot of them and had no idea they were that long, but it still works. Now where's my end? Right here. Okay. And we're long to start with, but won't be long for that long. Okay, so now what we do is we're going to go down the peg. We ended here, so we're going to go down the next peg. So we go down this way, and then we'll be going up the peg before and around. Okay, so it's pretty easy, nice and stretchy. And so we go down and pull our yarn through. Whoops. And don't get caught inside the loop, which is the first thing I did. That's too funny. So we're going to go down. But if that happens, you just correct it, because you don't want to have any kind of big loop or whatever, okay? You just want to be down that peg, okay? Then we're going to go to the peg before that peg. And we're just going to pull the yarn through. Okay, and just snug it up. And then we're going to go in between the two pegs we just worked on and behind the first peg we did to the next peg. And we're going to go down it. And just snug it up. Okay, then we're going to go back up the peg before and just snug it up, and then go in between the two pegs we just worked on and behind, snug it up a little bit, and we're going to go down this peg. There we go. And up the peg before. Snug it up a bit, go behind, and down. Go and up. And in between the two, go down the next one. You can see why we use up so much yarn doing this. And then up. But this makes a really nice extra stretchy type of bind off, and it matches really nice with the cast on. I have the same stretch as the cast on, and it'll look nice and even and matching. Okay, so here we are. We go behind, down the next one. I think you have the idea now. It's just down and up, and in between the two, behind, and then down the next one. Okay, very, very easy. So I'll work my way around and I'll meet you up when we're just about at the end. Okay, so here I am getting close to the end. So I'm going to go behind this peg here, down this peg, and up this one. and around, and then we're going to be back where we started. So we want to go down the peg that we did first, and then we can just go up this one last time, and we can take it off the loom, leave a nice long thing so it doesn't unravel on you, and just pop them off around the loom and pop them off. And we're just about done. My yarn was getting really fat there at the end. It didn't like going binding off. Some yarns are like that, especially ones with wool, a lot of wool content. It's losing its twist and becoming a big fat piece of wool. Okay, so take it off the loom, and here we are, and here's our a piece right here. And then all we're going to do is right at the last stitch here where we bound off, and you're going to see that this and this is the same, right? And this has a nice stretch to it, and so you want to make sure you don't get so tight you take any of that away. And we're just going to this wants to, in the last stitch here, I'm just going to go back into it and make a knot. There we go. If you hate making a knot, you could try weaving it in enough, but to make sure the bind off doesn't come off, a knot usually is better. And this is such a nice thick material, I'm never going to feel it. And then you just can weave it in. So you just put it through to the other side somewhere on the inside, and you can just weave it in anywhere that you can find to weave it in. And in the meantime, we want to stretch the stitches, so let's just do that, because you always need to stretch your stitches to set them. It's going to be just what I wanted it to be, a neck warmer or a really, really thick headband when I just want a thick headband. Okay, so there you go. The stitches are stretched out, and you can see your cast off. I had so much red at the end there. Here we go. Here's a place where you can see the cast off better, and you can see that it matches the cast on really, really nicely. Just trying to find a place that it'll show you better. Maybe right here where it's the gold color. So you see it's just got that. There you go. That, now you're seeing it, and that's the same as there. So it's a really good match. That's the thing. Some colors just won't show on the screen. See, with that red going through it, it's hard to see that. But here you can see it, that they match really nice. You've got the nice stretch here, just like you have here. And you can see that they're the same length. See, when I hold this up, they're the same length. So it's a really nice bind off to go with that cast on. And here's your stitch here. Really a beautiful piece. Here we go. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Have lots of fun with this stitch. And until next time, bye.